Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare.
Okay, so you haven't been to a previous teaching. We are going through the different types of analytical meditations on the complete path to enlightenment. And the foundational ones are often categorized as the four thoughts that turn the mind to Dharma. And first one, the rare and precious life that we have, favorable to Dharma practice. We spent some time there. Second one is death and impermanence. So we've already worked our way through. There's 3 points with 3 subpoints. So they call it 9-point meditation on death. And death is certain, time of death uncertain. And last week we covered mostly the uncertain part. And the point is not to just talk about it, but to know it. And so our process here is that we get to unpack what would be a meditation. Normally, one would go ahead and meditate on these points, take some real time, moves from a discussion, from a teaching to a realization, and then really sink that in. And so in the lifestyle that we all have, it's pretty helpful to have some time to break it down, to explore it, to discuss it, and then spend a week or so, bringing that into your life and seeing if you get some realization and really watering these seeds in our lives. And it's said that if we were to really have the realization of these 4 thoughts, everything else is easy. Like there's nothing more important to do. It's just, if you have a good foundation, the path becomes very easy. But easier said than done. So let's just take a little peek. So we have this rare and precious human birth, favorable to Dharma practice, the complete path to an awakening. It's been handed to us. We have it. Very awesome. I might want to practice that instead of watch Netflix tonight. I don't know. We got choices. And we have teachers and the path's available. Like it's all right here. And so getting some real sense of that. And then, okay, it's not here forever. We're changing moment to moment. Our body's changing moment to moment. This day will come, this day will go, this body will come, this body will go. So right here in this very lifetime, we can be liberated. So then the urgency is, well, I want to use it. Well, I got it. But there's a lot of things that get in the way. Chocolate covered pretzels I was eating them just a little bit ago. It was kind of a preoccupation of mine. And some other habits and tendencies that kind of get in our way, other things that seem very interesting or very important. And so the real guiding, I think, principle for our types of lifestyles is that 7-point mind training, that we turn our whole life into the path, that our lifestyle becomes our practice. And all day long, merit and wisdom is accumulated. And it's not just these formal practice sessions, on a cushion. But to really set that in, it needs to be a priority. So I have this incredible opportunity, comes only once, may not have it tomorrow. Hopefully a sense of urgency shows up for it, but not a sense of stress, worry, and fear about it. That's the other thing. I only have to deal with one dynamite and I'm stressed. And it's not like that. It's like everything's available right now. and it may not be here tomorrow. Let's use it. Let's use it. And when I catch my mind finding a few other priorities, you know, it's like, oh, okay, that's the deal. And I've got a lot of conditioning here. And can I turn my activities into the Dharma path? Can I even, take what I would normally call recreation into the path of awakening? And yes, you can. Apparently, even pickleball, according to Kurt and Keith, can become the path to awakening. Apparently, a lot of stuff you can work with your mind there. And so understanding this and having these opportunities, maintaining that awareness and focus and purpose. Well, the more that we're dialed into these four thoughts, the easier that is. And if we really understand how fragile this life is, yeah, we probably wouldn't take it for granted. So we've been on the meditation, death is certain and time of death uncertain last week. We're just wrapping up time of death uncertain, a lot of ways to die. We don't know when time will come. And the last point there was that the human body is very fragile. Yeah, very fragile. So the idea is, maybe reflected on that people have died in your life, people who died young, died old, most in between, some quickly, some slowly. Gene Hackman just passed away, right? He's the recent famous one. He made it to 95, though. So, yeah, maybe we should do what he did. Get our years in. But yeah, some 95, some 12, some 7 months. Steve McQueen, he was 50. Just fun fact, in case you were curious. So taking some time to really notice this and to know that, okay, may not be here tomorrow. Now let's get to the text, because there's time of death, or see, death is certain, time of death uncertain. At the time of death, only Dharma can help. And that's what we're getting to. So the third root, only Dharma helps at the time of death. According to Buddhism, dying with a positive, peaceful state of mind is crucial for a favorable rebirth in the next life. What can help us die with such a mental state? Imagine yourself at the time of death while contemplating the following 3 points. And so they're just giving you a context here real quick that says, this body will come and go, but your consciousness continues, right? Moment to moment to moment. And for that continuum of consciousness from this body and the continuum, peacefulness, optimism, healthy state of mind is really critical. The state of mind at the time of physical death is really a factor in the continuum. Very big point. And then, of course, I always want to address that if you're uncertain that your continuum of consciousness goes on, that this is it. At the time of death, do you want to be peaceful and at ease with you've lived well and done it? Probably, and so it's going to be important regardless. All right, we already have a hand up. I'm just barely getting rolling. Thank you.
Yeah, John. Hello, everybody. I really am curious about why is this crucial to have this positive, peaceful state of mind at the time of death?
And how do they know?
I mean, I keep hearing that, and I guess it just dawned on me. I don't really understand why.
Yeah, so there and very specific teachings that will actually guide you through the whole process of what happens when the body's dying, what the mental states, and how we fade into each element, what that feels like, even what color you may see, and how to be aware to stay conscious in that process, the clear light. And so they have, this down to a very clear science of having gone through it. And the karma right at the time of death is as that transitions, they say, has this trajectory. Now, it's not the only thing, right? All of our karma, all of our habits, all of our tendencies come with us. But that initial transition from this physical body, at that moment, they say is really plays a large role in how we start seeing ourselves from that moment, from the body to not having a body. And because that immediate transition, it's can be very unsettling, and you don't have a body anymore, and you start seeing things differently. So why that karma is weighted specifically more so than others, I don't know. It's just their text, having gone through that, emphasizes that's going to have a big impact karmically.
So, sorry, John, how do they know that? Who went through it? Right? I mean, how do they?
Yeah, Luigi Santoni.
He did it?
He went through this,
Okay.
yeah. And
In 1933?
Yeah. And Luigi, we call him Louis, and he assures us.
Okay, good. Thank you.
That helps.
Yeah. No. If you go through the Vajrayana text, and the Bardos and so forth, mind and rebirth. Matter of fact, my ordination master, Latte Rinpoche, wrote a book on that. And so this has been passed down through time, through Buddhist teachings, through practitioners, exactly what happens. And the yogis that do this, and some of you read the story of my teacher and his transition, they practice this all the time. They practice the death, what the elements, how that dissolves, what it feels like. They go through that, and then they emanate in the clear light, and they do this, throughout their lives all the time, so that when the body dies, they know exactly what to do, right? And then they stay in that meditative state even when the body's dead, for a period of time with the body. And so these texts, you trace it down, these yogis have gone through it, the Buddhist, the teachings have been made available. It's been doing it for, centuries. And I think I'm curious. Yeah, I'm sure I have the text by Latte Rinpoche on mind and rebirth and Bardos and those intermediate states. They're very specific. And it wasn't really Luigi. I was just kidding because, I love that name. I tried to talk my daughter into naming the kid Luigi, but they went with Henry. But wouldn't it be nice to have Louis? I like that. Hey, Louis, let's go. Grandpa wants to take you out for an ice cream. Yeah. I mean, Henry works. We got him an old Henry bar. Yeah, it's kind of right.
I have a cat named Louie.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
All right. Mark, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, nice to be back here with you guys. Sorry to have missed you the last couple of weeks, but I was having a good time in Venice, Italy. So I guess, that's kind of nice too. But it says in the text, regarding why it's important to die with a positive, peaceful state of mind. And she says that it is crucial for a favorable rebirth in the next life. So does that mean that you can actually choose your next reincarnation?
Oh, absolutely. But in order to do that, you have to be pretty highly realized yogi who's practiced this whole process, and then you consciously go through the whole transition, and then they can actually consciously choose the next life. Most of us who are not that realized, you're going to be propelled into the next life karmically. So one way that we get to choose our next life is how we live today. I mean, that's probably the most important one for most of us. Live ethically, cultivate compassion, and we're creating a trajectory for a continued process of favorable rebirths and a continuum of practice. So in that way, we're already creating our future and our next life now. But you could consciously, develop the practice of being conscious through that whole process and not miss the clear light when it shows up and go through that process consciously. It's what they're trained to do. Yeah.
And to do that, she's saying that you have to remain calm and not in a state of fear or anxiety, but rather just a letting go of those things, of those emotions, correct? So that at the time of death, you're at least not fighting it. You're just letting go of this life and allowing whatever happens to happen, and hopefully it'll be a more favorable rebirth. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. And that's, it's not, she's pointing out it's crucial, but it's not, like if you were scared, it doesn't mean you wouldn't get a nice next life. It means that it's really increasing your transition in a positive way. And so, like several things on this point. When my mom was passing, for example, and I was in contact with my teacher, and we know that it's important to have this positive state of mind to create that environment. Not, a lot of times when people die, there's a lot of crying, a lot of wailing, and that kind of upsets and builds up attachment. So, I talked to him, got directions. The other thing was not to touch even lower parts of the body. Like you want the consciousness to lead through the crown of the head, through the upper part. And so, sometimes people grab the hand or grab an ankle and all that, and bring kind of awareness there. And so, so the advice was, let's create a nice, loving environment. And if they all would like to touch her, right, that they would all just tap her on the head, tap the head, yeah, top of the head. And I had some mandala sand for the blessing there. And and my family is real cool with it. So my family's mostly Catholic, and we were in the hospital and everybody there, and they all honored that. So when my mom, did pass, we were all there with love, with care. We, had let her know we're okay. It's okay to go. And then, everyone did just, have their hand on her head, as they said their goodbyes. And I had the mandala sand, and then they let me stay in the room with her for some hours, which is really nice. So I could do prayers with her while her consciousness is still in the body. So it's very sweet, very, very nice, and so that's a nice environment. That would be like ideal. And so you get everybody involved. This is, a loving transition, nothing to be afraid of. Everything's good. Yeah. All right, Ashley.
I think you kind of just answered this, but what about someone who has dementia, for example, who's not able to have a conscious state of mind, their state of mind is not prepared, or someone that has a sudden death that is unable to kind of, it's just boom, it happens.
Yeah, sudden deaths are tough because it's not easy to, have the right mental state right then, as that Mack truck hits you. That's shocking, right? So with dementia and all that, again, same thing, right? We just create the best environment, and it's always going to be the totality of karma and imprints and conditioning from lifetimes, that's going to really move into the next life. So, so that's all in play. And So we just always do our best in the environment we're in. What I will say about sudden deaths, though, is you can practice by practicing what we're talking about now. If you're going to hit with a sudden death, you'd be amazed how relaxed you could be because you're prepared. So, the example I'll give again is when I was going to India to become a monk. Going to India, flying on a plane. My teacher's in the business class, and a nun and I are in a regular economy section. We're going to India, going to be a monk. We're closing in on India, and it was interesting. I moved to we had an extra row, so I was going to lay down and sleep. I was about to go to sleep, and I realized I didn't have my seatbelt on, so I fastened my seatbelt. And so I just napping, and I woke up to the plane in complete free fall. I woke up to the plane in free fall and a guy bouncing off the ceiling. So I woke up in the shock, like, okay, this guy's bouncing off the ceiling. We're in free fall, like, it's over, right? And once I kind of got my senses and realized it was over, it was amazing. I was pretty calm. Anything I can do? Nope. Okay. And then I quickly moved into acceptance, It fell, I don't know how far, but then it caught and then started bouncing around. And we didn't die. And but it was a trip. People were screaming and wailing. Somebody broke like a femur. You always have your seatbelt on. They're not kidding, because people are injured with people that didn't have seatbelts. But I'll tell you what, we were all hugging each other when we landed. And it was a love fest. But it even freaked out the flight attendants. There was dead silence. It wasn't like, we're all good now. It was like everybody was, in shock. So anyhow, point being is it was sudden and I was surprisingly calm, which I had no idea what I would be like, So if we practice in this lifetime of this constant letting go and a knowing of continuum, you even if it's a shocking, quick death, you might actually be a lot more peaceful than you think, just in acceptance of it, because it's just this body, and you don't have to pay your taxes. Yeah, right there, plus.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the perspective in terms of the death and rebirth to go through our own life, right? Through our own journey. Sometimes we go through our own rebirth while we already alive. And many times all the identity of the self kind of we have to move on from it. We have to move to a new identity. But then many times we're clinging, we have such a strong attachment to our old sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
How does the practice relate to that, right? Because we can contemplate the moment that we die, but we continuously die for our own life, for our own journey.
Mm-hmm. So for those of you online, just and let me make sure I can paraphrase it correctly, is, on one level, we are always becoming something new. So technically, we're always dying what we were and what we're becoming, right? So that's happening. But we may find certain personas that we've pretty identified with a lot. And sometimes we need to let go of those to be what's new, right? And the view is you're not that persona and you're not what you're becoming either, right? That your primordial wisdom is that which is aware of the letting go and that which is aware of the becoming. And so the movement is to start identifying more with the awareness and less with the personality or the ego or the conditioning. And in that way, it's more of this primordial wisdom that is aware, and then it notices the clinging and the attachment to, my labels and who I am and what I've done and, who I, love, and what role I played, right? And so Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo, I think, gives one of the best ways for us to work with this. Is she equates it to being like an actor in a play. That if you're playing Hamlet, in a play, be a really good Hamlet, but you're really not Hamlet, And when you're an actor, you stop being Hamlet when the play is over. We kind of keep hanging on to, in this case, John. I keep hanging on to who John was, and so her advice is to engage with the role that we're in, but knowing it's just a role. It's not who you are. It's who you are in that moment with these conditions. And I like to think of it as, and I think it's simple if I know what my role is. It's like right now I'm in the role of kind of a teacher at the moment. When I was walking over here, I was just a pedestrian. That was my role. I'm a pedestrian. Sometimes I'm a husband, sometimes pretty good one, sometimes, in between. But, and that's my role, or a friend, or a consumer, or a commuter. But those are all just dependent on that moment, how I'm arising in that moment. And in that moment, it's good to know the role and to use it wisely. And know that as soon as that role changes, now I'm in a new role, right? So now I'm sitting here, we're doing this. A little while later, earlier I was doing the dishes, so I think I was being a good husband. And, that was a good role. But all of this, is nothing other than an opportunity to actually realize your primordial wisdom, your Buddha nature, who you really are. And the link to that is the awareness, not the identity or the ego or the habit, but that which is aware. So resting in awareness itself is that, a kind of a gateway. It's helpful. And so we're always becoming, and we're not who we once were, but we can have a lot of strong attachment to that identity, and it can be very hard. John Francis is a TED Talk, I Walk the Earth, and amazing man. He walked for, I don't know how many years. He was 17 years. He was silent. He's silent for 17 years. He walked, he driving vehicles, and he did a lot of amazing things. He got degrees without speaking, and walked for 2 years to get to the college he was going to go to. He wrote him, said, I'll be there in about 2 years. And yeah, he showed up 2 years. If you haven't seen a TED Talk, John Francis, I walked there. It's amazing. And he did all these amazing things. And then, but at the end, he realized he put himself in a prison, that he was the guy who walked. And for a while that served a purpose, but it wasn't anymore. And he didn't know he put himself in a prison of being just the guy that walked. And then by, then freeing himself up to let go of that, get into a car because that was appropriate. But we can, even with our wholesome identity, we can put ourselves in those identity prisons, by our labels. Yeah. He had to let go of that. He had to let go of not talking because he had something to share. And the only way, after 17 years, he had this important thing to share. So he spoke. It was on Earth Day, year 2000. And his big message, by the way, was that we are the environment. How we treat each other is the environment, not just think of the environment as plants and trees and things, but how we treat each other. And it was an important message. So on Earth Day, after 17 years, he spoke. Yeah. But that is, more challenging than we say to do, right? Yeah. Yeah. But, we have lots of labels, but those labels are appropriate for a moment. And then there's new ones, even in one day. We're always becoming. All right, so maybe we'll have time to get to the teaching. Let's take a look. It's possible. Oh yeah, nothing to it. Okay, so nothing can help at the time of death except Dharma. And so first we have to realize what cannot help. And family and friends cannot help. We probably wish to have our loved ones with us when we die to support and comfort us, but is it certain that they will be there? Death could happen when they're away from home, when we are away from home, away from our family and friends. Even if they're with us as we're dying and able to take care of our physical needs, could they help with our emotional needs? If we are frightened, angry, or sad about all that we are leaving behind, they might be overwhelmed by their own emotions and unable to help us with ours. As we die, our mind gradually withdraws from the outer world and sinks into subtler levels. We lose the ability to see, hear, speak, move, and be aware of others. Finally, we separate from them and travel alone through the process of dying and the intermediate state to the next life. No one can accompany us on the journey, right? That's our journey. So that's one of these key things to remember. All this that we acquire, we go alone. Also, clinging to loved ones with the wish to never separate from them can make it difficult to die peacefully. Instead, our mind may be troubled by sadness, longing, and anxiety. Such clinging is a type of attachment, which the Buddha recognized as one of the main causes of suffering because it denies the impermanent nature of things, such as people and relationships, and often incites us to commit unwholesome actions, right? We do a lot out of our attachment. Attachment to people is not the same as love, as will be explained later in chapter 13. Those of you who've been around a while, we've hit on that topic a lot. Love is concerned for the happiness of others, while attachment is self-centered under its influence. We use people to fulfill our own needs and wants. It's not really about loving them, it's loving how they make us feel when they act and behave in a very specific way that I like. Understanding the problems that arise from attachment motivates us to work on decreasing it while continuing to love and care for family and friends, setting the stage for a more peaceful death. So the key there is really working with our attachments and relationships and knowing that they are too also temporary. And if we love someone, we're going to leave everyone we love. Everyone we know won't be with us at some point. And maybe we can love them while we got them instead of attached. Our possessions and enjoyments. So this is the second sub point. Our possessions and enjoyments cannot help. Much of our time and energy is devoted to our material possessions, wealth, and property, managing them, protecting them, acquiring more. These are useful while we are alive, but can they help us at the time of death? Our money can provide with physical comfort, but having a private room in a hospital and good medical care, but it cannot stop death from happening. And we can't take even 1 cent with us when we die. And this is where I usually point out that that anti-aging cream is not going to help either, no matter what they're telling you. We do need a certain amount of material resources for ourselves and our family, but we often crave more than we really need. Moreover, attachment to our money and property can make it difficult to die peacefully. Our mind may be overwhelmed by sadness about leaving them behind, or worry about who gets what and whether they will take proper care of our things. So you're seeing this theme around attachment, people, attachment to our things, to our stuff, all going to be a hindrance at the time of death. And then our body has been a constant companion since birth, and our sense of self is deeply entangled with it. We easily get upset when someone insults it or bumps against it. We have spent countless hours caring for it. I mean, imagine how many hair care products. I mean, just that alone. Yeah, conditioners, everything. Back when I was a kid, we had mousse. People, they still have mousse. You know, get the hair all spiky. That was a thing. Anyway, we spent quite a bit of time on our bodies and our hair, and I don't damage my hair anymore. We have spent countless hours caring for it, keeping it comfortable and healthy, beautifying it, and using it to enjoy sensory pleasures. At death, our mind separates from this body and departs for the next life, and our body will become lifeless. It will become a lifeless corpse, to be buried or cremated, or maybe a sky burial if you live in Tibet. Not only is it unable to help us as we are dying, but it can be a source of intense pain and suffering. Being attached to and identified with our body at that time, could also make our mind disturbed, frightened, and unpeaceful. So basically, a lot of things that we spend our time and energy on in our life, at the time of that's not going to be helpful, could even be a hindrance. You know, the attachment to our relationships, the attachment to our stuff, the attachment to this body and body image and all that. None of that's going to, no matter what we do, going to help us at the time of death. So it's a nice perspective is, while I'm alive, how about I live and have healthy, meaningful, loving relationships with people, knowing that each day is a precious one, comes once. They may or may not be here. I may or may not be here. So let's use our relationship well. Let's use our resources well. Let's do things with our finances that are beneficial, helpful. Make sure our needs are met and contribute to the greater good, and have a meaningful life. And just the basic research on this again is I've been getting caught up in quite a bit of research around happiness, well-being, and so forth. And the wealthiest, country, has the least amount of happiness. And it's taught to us in kindergarten. It's taught to us through countless philosophers, countless wisdom teachings. A purposeful life is a happy life. Having stuff is not going to create the happiness. What you do with the stuff will keep you happy. And so, are we using our resources in a meaningful way? Do we have purpose and meaning to our life? Are we using the life that we do have in a meaningful way? And in this case, eliminating the causes of suffering, cultivating the causes of wisdom and compassion and awakening, and being of greatest benefit to all. Are we doing that? And then it says, what can help you at the time of death? And that's going to be the Dharma. So what can help us at the time of death? Spiritual teachers and Dharma friends can help us with advice, prayers, and their peaceful presence. However, since it's not certain that such people will be present when we die, it's important to learn how to manage that experience on our own. Training our mind in spiritual practice while we are alive will enable us to remember it and use it to keep our mind positive at the time of death. So I alluded to that a bit earlier, right? And my own little experience. So if we're living in reality now, right? Living in reality now, I know that I am arising moment to moment, and I have all the conditions right here to be cultivating wisdom and compassion to live a meaningful life. And I also know that it could end anytime. So if I actually start having these realizations now, I'm preparing for that time. What's going to help is Dharma, and Dharma is that which cultivates wisdom and removes suffering. So the more I live in reality, the more I'm prepared, right? Dharma is going to help. Reality is going to help. An understanding of reality is going to help. Preparing in the sense of cultivating merit and wisdom, the two accumulations, this good, virtuous, wholesome way of living along with wisdom and understanding. Then there's nothing to fear. Body comes, body goes. You know, maybe I won't be chasing after cars in the next lifetime. I don't know. Hopefully I will be on this bodhisattva path and continue, but then it's a continuum. So we can be doing that all the time. And so that's, again, another way that we are actively creating our next life now. We have a choice. We have a choice now. We won't have much of a choice then. So what are we doing with this time? And then if we do it in ways that are meaningful, there's whether we don't think there's a next life or not, at the time of death, you lived your life well. It was meaningful. You had purpose. If you do have that sense of life to life, then wow, okay, let's see what's next, you know. And then, you know, there's just so much more peace around that. So Dharma helps. So the point that they want to make is, am I using my life to cultivate the actual bank account that matters, which is merit and wisdom? Or am I spending my life cultivating the bank account that's not going to come with me? Am I creating all the attachment around all of that? And maybe we want to make sure we're actually engaged in our life in ways that cultivate something that will go with you. Your karma, your merit, your wisdom. That's what's going to go with you. None of this other stuff. Not even this cool shirt I have, which I have worn for years, man. It's threadbare. It's got a rip down the side. I got it taped up though over here. Yeah. I'm hanging in there with it. Cannot find one like it. It's amazing. We're in India and everything. Couldn't find one like it. I'm not attached. I'm just trying to make good use of resource and not put into a landfill. Right. Tape it because we want to make good use of it. I wouldn't want, you know, cast it. Yeah. Never needs to be iron either. Yeah. So, yeah. Might be a little attached. So, now, if we sit here and then take some time then and, you know, just get very comfortable with this now, then our life now becomes so much easier. What's really important is what's relevant. And then everything that happened, everything in my life, I can cultivate merit and wisdom. I can do that in anything. And I won't be as stressed out around those other types of attachments. I'm trying to not change people, trying to make, you know, everything work a certain way. And so the value of understanding the opportunity, and then just the very nature of this very transitional moment to moment way that we live, and then knowing what's really important. Only the Dharma helps at the end. The only thing going with you is your merit and wisdom. So those two accumulations, those you can keep. Yeah.
I thought I'd share a little story from Venerable Thompson, who's been teaching in Delhi just recently, Tushita Center.
On the same point.
Same points, yeah. So she had a little comment on this teaching around death and permanence, and she was saying, you know, they had recently had a little tremor, a little earthquake. And she asked the students, so what was it like for you? You know, what was your mind at that point? And one woman said, oh, I just said, oh, this is my time, I'm ready to go. So, you know, and Venerable Thompson just said, good practitioner, that's great. And other people were fear, you know, clinging. And she pointed out, like, it's just a good test of like where your practice is. And, you know, are you like running around trying to gather up things, you know, as you evacuate the building, or, you know, just what's your mind state? So I've been holding that to think about. Yeah, great. Just ways to check my mind. Ways to check my practice. And it was a good example, similar to your airplane, but.
Yeah. All right, so that's our opportunity this week, is to start noticing, what are we spending our time attaching to, merit and wisdom, or, you know, what do we get stressed and worried about all day? And, you know, what's actually important, what is of value, which again doesn't mean you don't play pickleball or have, you know, people are still skiing now, right? So it could be skiing or whatever your thing is, right? You can do these things, but doing them with an understanding of why you're doing them. How does it contribute to your life? And is it meaningful? And so, you know, building connection, you know, having recreation with others and creating community can be meaningful. And, you know, Kurt allowing Keith to win once in a while, you know, that's helpful. It builds a strong relationship. And, you know, these opportunities, you know, that we can engage with each other in human form in a way that's meaningful, helpful. But, you know, are we attached? Are we loving? You know, which one? And then every day, making sure that if today is the last day, you're good to go. Saying, this body. You know, and that doesn't mean stop working out. Saying, well, you got the body, you got to use it, you know, in a healthy way as best you can. Yeah. And we have it all right now. But imagine what your life would be like if this was just held in a realization throughout your day, instead of just something we talk about once in a while. So up here we said, how do you keep reminding yourself? And we do a little practice in the morning with 2 verses. This opportune physical form is more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. You only gain its light the once. So hard to get, so easily destroyed. It's like a lightning bolt in the sky. Contemplate this and you will realize all worldly actions are but winnowed chaff. That's the part of wheat you just throw away. And night and day you must extract some essence of this life. I, a yogi, practice in this way. You, wanting liberation, should do the same. So we meditate on that every day. And then you can bring it to mind a few times a day. So you just kind of start your day with it, and break it down. And then throughout the day, you can tell I've had a little bit memorized in like 20 years. So, and if you can really have that be a mantra for life that you can, reflect on, meditate on, bring to mind throughout the day. I would stop a few times a day. Opportune physical form is more precious than a wish fulfilling jewel. That basically means this life right now can offer you the one thing that nothing else can, and that's awakening. We have it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Except you did earn it. Yeah. In a different way. Yeah. So, yeah. So this thing that because our mind will forget all that pretty quick. And, especially when somebody's trying to get that last piece of dessert, it's for you. And, or that parking spot or whatever. It's funny how the mind can go over very simple things. Who did the dishes last? Whose turn it is? Or who's our current president or whatever. Our mind can get caught up into some pretty intense things that, what's really important. What's really important. So, all right. Anybody have any thoughts, questions, curiosities?
I got a question.
Okay. Yeah.
One thing I've been wondering is about, you're talking earlier about primordial wisdom and our Buddha nature, and then the mind stream being that which continues after that. And so is it accurate to think of the mind stream as having Buddha nature? Is that what has Buddha nature?
You have Buddha nature.
Am I my mind stream?
And your mind stream is part of you, but the primordial wisdom is beyond even that mind stream. So did everybody in the back here, here on the computer, hear the question in the back? Did you guys hear that? He spoke fairly loud. Yeah. Melissa. So just asking about, is your mind stream your Buddha nature? And Buddha nature is within, it's giving rise to everything, this full display. But how we perceive ourselves. So the simple way to think of it is you have an individual mind stream that's moment to moment to moment. And within that, store consciousness is all your karma, all your imprints, all your conditioning from all these lives. And based on what's in that, the imprints, the conditioning, gives rise to how you see yourself today in your body and all that. That body will end, and that continuum will, based on your karma and imprints and store consciousness, just see itself differently. Just start seeing itself differently. So it's not like your mind or body goes anywhere in that sense. You just start seeing yourself differently. You won't have a body. Doing that Superman thing. Ashley laughs at all my jokes. I'm just going for the record. Thank you. And so you're welcome anytime. So, but your primordial wisdom, you actually cut through that consciousness. It's everything. It's past, present, future. It's beyond concept. It's beyond construct. It is that. And so it's free of karma, it's free of all those things. So you actually literally you cut through even that to recognize that and have direct access. No more rebirth, no more karma, no any of that, which is already there. It's just obscured. Yeah. All right, Chris.
Yeah, I'll try to make this really short, but there was a really great YouTube by a meditator who looked at the impact. They did a study on um, kind of activation and compared to people who meditated and didn't, and the anticipation of pain and coming back to a steady state after it. And people who didn't meditate, the light would go on, they'd freak out, the pain would be presented, and they'd freak out a little bit more. But the people who were meditating knew that they would, the pain was going to come anyway, and there was no activation until the inevitable pain. And then afterwards, it's like pain's over, we're back to it. So your situation on the plane, it's like, you get some turbulence, some people are freaking out, and I've been on planes where people are praying to the Bible with a little bit of turbulence, and other people are just like, well, let's wait till it gets really bad, and then I'll allow some fear to come up. But just that, that the little the mindfulness mind training can prepare us for death. And that's the Tibetan Book of the Dead talks a lot about that, about how scary death is going to be, and just be prepared for it so that we're not freaking out when we're in that bardo state, when we really don't really know what's going on. So but it's very interesting, very scientific research. Yeah, we can control our anxiety and not be, especially the political climate, we can spin out. Serenity prayer helps, that kind of thing. Let's put energy into what we can change, and not be worrying about what we can't. So
Thanks, Chris. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the more we meditate, the more we have a choice about what we attend to. Which is awesome, yeah. And that ability to not be in resistance. Fear. Yeah. Good stuff. All right. So our assignment this week is to continue to really notice, what will actually help at time of death. And this day, death is certain, time of death is certain. What's really important at the time of death? Right? What's really important? Which is always how you lived your life. And are we living our lives in ways that are meaningful? And what am I attaching to that's creating harm? Instead of, and I always like to distinguish between attachment and appreciation. I can appreciate a person in my life. I can love somebody, or I can attach. Attachment's about me, appreciation is about them. And can we appreciate the moments of our lives, both the lessons that are difficult and the joys that come our way, and prepare. Roxana's hand is speaking to me. I was starting to make me feel like the Addams Family.
Yeah, I can do
Was
that.
it? Was it it? Who was
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think was a hairy guy.
Okay, that was Cousin It. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been looking at this subject for a long time, and I took a mentorship, not a mediumship course with Suzanne Giesman, and I've done some, like workshops with people. And one of the things they've talked about is there's certain oh shoot, my brain's not working. When people die and then they come back, near-death experiences, but then there are therapists who do shared death experiences, and they work with the person until the moment of death. So they be a support person for the person who's dying until they die, and they can't go beyond that point with them. And so sometimes I wonder if there are quote unquote ghosts, or mediums communicate with people who are on the other side of the veil, as they say, Well, why are they there if they died and they're going to reincarnate? What's the difference? Are they hungry ghosts, or are, some people are ready to move on and some people are not, they're attached? What do you think about that?
No, just a little light question at the end. Yeah. No, I mean, teachings on this are fundamental, which you're actually nailing it, is some people, their attachments and their behaviors became so strong they get trapped, close by and in a house or in a situation that they weren't able to, their karma had been so strong. And so the attachments and the karmic imprints leave them stuck for a period of time. And again, everything is transitional. So even if you're in that state, it won't be forever. And so, but that is a thing that is talked about, is out of those attachments and things that we can get stuck because it was so strong. And there's also, which I am not well versed in at all, like POA practice, which is this transfer of consciousness at the time of death that yoga masters can help with. At that time, I'm not trained in that, don't have knowledge of that, but it is something that is practiced commonly with some yogis. So yeah, so there's some things that can happen at that stage that can be both helpful and not so helpful. But fundamentally, the point is always us. The more that we can have a free, open, virtuous, life with some clarity, then everything's going to fold out nicely. Lori.
I just want to say thank you. It's my first time with this teaching with you in this room, and I just want to say how much I appreciate how much you know and how clearly you say it. And I kind of took a break for a little while, and some of this material is a little familiar, but I'm just so grateful for you to have this setting where there can be Sangha with this material. I just wanted to say that I'm just self-sniffly, just saying thank you. I've been around a few Dharma centers and you're just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good to have you here. Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and dedicate the merit that we have already cultivated here on this Wednesday evening. A lot of things we could have been doing, but we chose to cultivate merit, wisdom, to engage in our lives and make full access in ways that are meaningful and productive for us, so we can be of benefit to others. So let us dedicate this merit for the benefit of others, that they may be free of suffering, and for our own continued spiritual growth, that we may ultimately recognize our Buddha nature, be of greatest benefit to all. Let us dedicate. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase for everyone.
Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha.